Okay, alright. The script here. So y'all really want that part 3. Alright, you assholes. Here's part 3.
Previously on Curb Your Clout.
I walk this earth like a god. You see what I'm saying?
Right hook, roll under. Right hook, roll under.
I don't know. You ready? He's a piece of shit.
David Lemieux said, I'm going to make a pay for talking trash about me.
There's only one Floyd Mayweather. You cannot anoint any other Floyd Mayweathers. There is one. There will always only be one.
Jeff Lacey was being put in the American media hype machine and labeled as a super middleweight Mike Tyson. Despite Europe, for the most part, ruling super middleweight since its creation, despite CALZAGHE being undefeated, 17 successful title defenses, and being fundamentally superior than Lacey, the American public completely threw those facts out the window and somehow had Joe the heavy underdog, which is a complete insult to what he has accomplished.
It was an easy pick, and virtually, I would say 95% of the US media picked Jeff Lacey to win and fully expected him to knock out Joe CALZAGHE.
On a personal note here, American fighters are incredibly privileged. I'm not saying all fighters, but a fair amount. They can become critically acclaimed with so little accomplishments, while the foreign fighter who fights outside of America because of obvious reasons really has to double, sometimes triple down to receive such notoriety. Europe rules divisions like super middleweight and cruiserweight, and there is a clear reason why Americans have barely made a dent in the history of the division, and there should be a higher level of respect given. With that being said,
you look at his fights, you wouldn't call him a slapper?
Despite being injured coming to the fight, CALZAGHE put on an absolute show. Many who tuned into Showtime to see Lacey unify was their first time seeing Joe were in complete shock.
CALZAGHE is outboxing Lacey at this stage. But it's a 12 and a little contemptuous smile from
the combination, and then spins off and leaves Lacey to hit in thin air. He's boxing his head off.
He is giving him a boxing lesson.
Absolutely, John. Giving him an absolute boxing lesson. He's hitting him, but he's not getting hit. This is fantastic.
Their opinions coming into the build-up were molded by the nationalistically biased journalism. It seemed like CALZAGHE's team knew that from the start because they never really seemed to receive the credit they deserved out west.
So they always had something against what Joe was achieving. And I've got to say this now, it pissed me off big time.
Which really motivated Enzo, Joe's dad, to convince Joe to not drop out of the fight due to his injury.
Do you know what happens if you don't fucking fight the fight? They call you a bastard coward. They call you every name under the sun. If you can forget your boxing career, you're over.
And my dad said, you have to fight this fight. Joe, if you want to fight one arm, doesn't matter. I'm proud of you no matter what.
Every single round, Joe not once let off the gas. On that night, he showed everyone why he is the best at super middleweight, putting on, hands down, one of the greatest performances in the sport.
But he can be dangerous, but CALZAGHE's a fighter through and through.
Can CALZAGHE take him out, even at this late stage? He's going looking for him. He's put Lacey down for the first time in his career.
This is the fight Haye really wanted, and he was being vocal as possible on social media, at Vlad's fights, and most notably, the t-shirt which started the bad blood of him holding the heads of both brothers. To further up the ante, Haye had a mobile game developed where you can decapitate the head off of a Russian heavyweight boxer. That's exactly what it's listed on Wikipedia. This was all happening in 2009. With all that trash talk, Haye was forced to pull out due to an injury. I feel sorry for Setanta. They were putting all the eggs in the basket for this fight and was expecting a major payoff since they were exclusively broadcasting this matchup. This fight was supposed to happen June 20th, 2009. Setanta pulled a plug and went off air in the UK June 23rd, 2009. Over 200 jobs were lost. So yeah. Thank you, David Haye. 2 years later, Haye picks up a belt. Vladimir does a public call-out video, which till this day is still better executed than a lot I've seen in recent times. The fight is finally made. So much hype due to the prolonged wait actually made the fight week and the turn-up larger than ever. Despite everything Haye said, he did not live up to any of that. Not a single decapitating punch landed, and he fought on his bicycle the whole night, which is not wrong at all. That's boxing. But because of context, he shot himself in the foot there. Klitschko cruised to an easy but confusing unanimous decision, with Haye making things even worse for himself by bringing up another injury in his post-fight interview. So Fernando Vargas, just being Fernando Vargas, does the most Fernando Vargas thing on making an impulse statement of throwing down a $100,000 bet with Shane Mosley that he will knock him out.
So you say you're gonna knock me out? I know I'm gonna knock you out. So I'll say this, I'll put 100,000 down right now. Put your money where your mouth is. Let's do it. Let's do it right now. All right, good.
Shane was able to stop Vargas by a cumulative punishment to the eye, which had completely blinded him. Despite being a close fight, an L is an L, and Vargas had to give up that 100 stacks.
He was a man of his word, and he paid me the $100,000.
In the post-fight, Vargas called out Mosley's manager, who is his wife, and demanded a rematch.
So I wanna ask Shane right now, where's Shane at? Well, let's talk to his wife. So, I want to know, am I going to have a rematch?
Then Vargas's wife went after Mosley's wife. Supposedly a fight erupted. Since this was back in the days where not many media outlets from YouTube and other platforms recorded these events in their entirety, footage of this scuffle is yet to come out.
Everything went crazy and people were pulling people apart, and you know, it was pretty intense. I mean, you know, and who doesn't like a great cat fight?
Golden Boy talking about doing a Mosley and Fernando Vargas misses fight. That'd be great.
Over the years, there has been some suspicious racist behavior by KOVALEV regarding a post that can easily be taken out of context, especially in our cancel culture society. But there's a point where you're just like, okay, this is getting ridiculous now. What the shit is your problem?
That's not something to play with, you know, and you can't use the excuse of, you know, a cultural difference. Nah, he's been here long enough. He's culturally sound enough to say some of the other things he's been saying to know that, you know, what he's doing is racially motivated, man. And it's sad. There's no place for that in this world, and there's no place for that in this sport. And he needs to be silenced. It's as simple as that. He needs to be silenced.
Sergey Kovalev loses a very close decision against Andre Ward in late 2016. Obviously, with a fight this close, there will be a rematch. There was high hopes from Kovalev supporters. He will be a lot more prepared going to the fight against his bitter rival. They couldn't have been any more wrong, but then again, who would have predicted these events coming up? Prior to the first Ward fight, Kovalev made a questionable post on social media that was deemed racist. In 2017, this debate was pretty much thrown out the window when, in promoting the fight on social media, Kovalev uses a slew of racial and anti-gay slurs. Something you'll hear from a 10-year-old kid in a Call of Duty forum in 2009. Kovalev will later delete these tweets. Following these actions by Kovalev's trainer, John David Jackson, reached out to Andre Ward's camp to join them because he was very unhappy how Kovalev's camp was treating him. Ward's camp declines Jackson's offer, thinking he would do the same to them. Jackson will go on to train Kovalev for the rematch. Before we cover the rematch, let's take a step back here. Jean Pascal came out back in early 2016 calling out Kovalev's behavior. He flat out called Kovalev a racist. He goes on to state, "I'm not playing the race card. I'm not trying to pretend that Kovalev is racist. You can call a liar, a monkey, and a racist. Kovalev called a black fighter a monkey not only once, but twice. He said it the first time when he fought this guy, Ismail Salak. He's a black Ukrainian fighter, and he called him a monkey. He then said to Salak, he's going to whoop your black ass. If that's not racist, what are you supposed to call it? Then after that, he said to Adonis Stevenson, who is black, you're a monkey. So when you make a mistake once, I get it. But when you do it twice, 3 times, that's not a mistake anymore. That's a habit. He's racist. I'm not trying to make up some story, not trying to play the race card. This is just a fact that you can see. If you don't believe me, you can ask Salak. These are things that he said from his mouth, not once, but several times. So Andre Ward went on to beat Kovalev. Then not too long after that, Alvarez completely levels Kovalev, which at that time it looked like that ended his career. John David Jackson will go out and say, after these events, Kovalev is a borderline racist and he got what he deserved. Karma is a bitch. So the Nazi regime has been signing quite a bit of L's lately, through their philosophy of their Aryan racial background being superior to everyone. The first of many L's kicking off in the Munich Olympics. Max Schmeling, who really didn't support the Nazi regime and just happened to be German nationality, became the heavyweight champion of the world. He was instantly made a propaganda tool by the regime. As being the heavyweight champion in this era, you were the most famous, most recognized person in the world. Despite Max losing the title and Lewis winning the title against James Braddock, Max still had that giant upset TKO over Lewis, which was used against him by the regime. When the fight was made, the entire world tuned in. In Germany, it was on a delayed broadcast because if Max loses, they won't air it. Sort of like how North Korea broadcasts their sports today. Hilarious enough, the week of the fight, Joe Louis wore sunglasses with the photos cut out of Max knocked down on the canvas, stating that's what he's going to do. Who said fighters didn't trash talk back in the day? Louis did exactly he said he was going to do. Not only he knocked him out, but also fractured Max's third and fourth lower lumbar vertebrae, which also caused a hemorrhage to the lower lumbar muscles. For anyone that wanted to know why he was screaming when he got knocked out from the documentary, which I'm not sure if that was mentioned, but now you know. CARROL was all over the place trash talking Farmer and just being a habitual line stepper.
He's a habitual line stepper.
Farmer's only response to CARROL was, I'm going to beat you up real bad, then take you out for Philly cheesesteaks, which is possibly the most old school response I ever heard.
I seen the picture with your beard cut, you look like a pervert. I seen the picture, you look like a pervert. You look like a pervert. You look like a pervert. You're cutting your beard, you're gonna be a pervert boxer that night. I'm gonna beat your ass.
And on a positive note here, Farmer did beat him up pretty bad, and he lived up to his promise by taking him out for the day to Philly to get some mean Philly cheesesteaks, in which they later became good friends, and he actually came back and visited Farmer the next year. I think out of this series, this will be the only segment where it ended on a positive note.
You go through trouble and y'all fight and then you make up. That's what boxing's all about. Gentleman sport. Yeah, absolutely.
This is a rocky 1-3 plotline here. Despite Joshua accomplishing so much within a short time and becoming incredibly famous in the process, he was worrying more about his image and what's in the future than the actual craft of the sport and the opponent who's in front of him. He was training to look pretty, bulking up rather than training to fight in any condition like an actual boxer. So coming into the fight, he did all of that when Ruiz wasn't taking any chances, whipping himself up in the greatest shape of his career. The fight started off well for Joshua, though there are some serious exploits to Joshua's style, which having a very long reach, he is not utilizing that at all. When you have a long reach like Joshua, and your opponent has T-Rex arms in comparison, you shouldn't be trying to fight this man head on like Mike Tyson. That's just something bad waiting to happen. Though no one saw this, especially after Ruiz was dropped, that was the best moment for him to exploit that flaw, and Ruiz was able to put him down. Joshua wasn't able to fully recover with the fact that he has so much unnecessary muscle that completely tired him out, where he was ultimately stopped by Ruiz. Now though, Joshua's clout had been curbed, Ruiz's clout exceeds James Buster Douglas levels. Joshua learned his lesson, went back to the basics, dropped all that excess muscle, and trained his ass off. While Ruiz, well, I don't know what he did, so we'll just leave it at that. Ruiz comes in at his heaviest and Joshua comes in at his lightest. And my gosh, I knew Joshua was trained for speed, but I didn't know he was going to be that fast. He put on a show and ironically threw the reverse card right back at Ruiz. Mickey and Rocky 3 couldn't have said it any better. You got civilized. And the lesson of the day in boxing is, don't get civilized. Out of most of the segments in this series, this may require the least amount of context. Anthony Hembrick, an undefeated prospect, 14-0 against his biggest test. Booker T. Ward, who is 16-1. He really picked the wrong fight to do this. Like, you know, these things never go as planned.
Popular fighter over the horizon. He has come along quickly. Last time we saw him, he looked extremely loose, very confident, and he puts on a show.
Anthony gets knocked out in the first round. The promotion to this fight was just pure entertainment.
His top three is singing, promoting Hennessy, and planking. I got the whole hood with me, just like he got the whole Philippines with him. I don't even know how to spell that. I got the whole hood with me, H-O-O-D. I'm not playing. I feel like a bum trying to fight for a sandwich, I swear to God. He drink Hennessy, he promote Hennessy, he fuck his money up, fuck up his taxes. Shit, if you ask me, he a black fighter.
And then the post-fight being even more entertaining. Despite Broner showing signs he can really do something at the start of the fight, like the first 2 to 3 rounds. Then after that, he just packed his bags up and mentally checked out into autopilot. Pacquiao completely dominated the rest of the fight, and here we get this infamous post-fight interview.
Bring your motherfucking ass over here. I got a lot to say.
We're going to conduct this professionally, or we're not going to have an interview. You make the decision.
Everybody out there know I beat him. I controlled the fight. He was missing. I hit him clean more times. I beat him. Hey, I'm 3-3-1 my last 7, but I'll be 7-0 against you.
Well, that wouldn't mean much. That's the end of this interview. Good luck to you in the future.
Following after this interview, Broner broke the internet. He had completely crossed over from just boxing memes within the community and becoming an actual meme. I was seeing all sorts of pages not even remotely related to sports posting Broner memes, when before it wasn't like that.
You couldn't get...
It already sounded like you was against me. So I already got frustrated with you. But let me talk something. Let me let y'all know. I want to thank the whole hood that came out here. I love y'all. I did this for the hood. Y'all know I beat that boy. Top Cincinnati, stand up. West side. 2-5.
Now you thought the Broner one was going to make the top on this list. Yeah, you definitely got that one wrong. I added this in the last minute thanks to this man's video. This news completely flew straight over my head as I was flooded with work around that time. Link to the full story in the description. Now if you didn't know, Mike Tyson was good friends with the late Tupac. So this dude here, who's been in the industry for a pretty long time, named WACK 100, goes on a spree of trash talking and spreading false rumors about Tupac to get some clout and be relevant again. This pissed off many people and everyone wanted to jump this guy. But these so-called tough-ass people who are opting to whoop this dude are more talk than the man who was rustling everyone's jimmies. Tyson, by luck, was in the same room as WACK 100. So words were exchanged and WACK got the beating he so righteously deserved and ended up in the hospital. It took a 53-year-old Mike Tyson to do a young man's job and shut this man up. I doubt he will ever open his mouth again, and that's the ultimate curb to clout. And on top of that, that's the end of part 3. For more installments like this, be sure to like, and if you're new, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram for more video updates, boxing news, stories, edits, whatever. I'm Office Honcho, and I'm out.